Palm Springs. We moved out to the desert, and my dad worked construction and did a lot of odd jobs for my grandfather, who was another tough guy. He was one of the few Jews who worked for Al Capone. I saw a lot of weird shit out there in the desert. One time my dad and I were driving along one of the back roads when he hit the brakes and pointed up at the sky. The sun was flashing on these silver objects that were moving horizontally and vertically at incredibly high speeds. There was a naval air base out there, and I'd seen the Blue Angels doing maneuvers on a couple of occasions. But this was nothing like that. This was a flying saucer situation. When they disappeared, my dad said, "We'll probably never see anything like that again." He worked with a lot of rough characters at the scrapyard and got himself into some hairy situations. At one point, my dad and my grandfather decided to dig a pit in the middle of the dump and hold dogfights there. My dad thought it would be a good idea to put his Doberman in the ring with a pit bull. He thought the Doberman could hang. He learned almost immediately that he was wrong. Within a matter of minutes, the pit bull had bitten off all 4 of the Doberman's legs and was thrashing him around by the throat, spraying blood everywhere. My dad told me it was one of the most brutal things he'd ever seen. Our time in the desert was rough for everyone. When I was 5 or 6 years old, a teenager molested me. She was a freckle-faced redhead with blue eyes. A cute, normal-looking girl. She took me behind one of the garages in the neighborhood, and that's where it went down. I don't really remember what happened. I just know that it was something completely foreign to me. The traumatic part was afterward, when she told me that I would get in big trouble if I told anyone what had happened, that it was our secret. That was really confusing to me because I didn't know what I'd done that was wrong. I thought we were just playing. It was a heavy thing for a kid to have to deal with. In fact, I've never told anyone about this, but maybe it explains my fascination with redheads. I was smaller than the rest of the kids in the neighborhood, a lot smaller, and people were always messing with me. I was the shrimp, the runt of the litter. Got some anger or aggression you need to get out? Take it out on the little guy. Everyone else did. I don't want to paint a picture that I didn't have any friends or that I was constantly getting picked on, because that wasn't the case. But sometimes people went too far. One afternoon I was playing in the front of the house with some local kids when the neighborhood bully decided he was going to mess with me. He grabbed me by my ankle and my wrist and swung me around like an airplane. I wasn't too cool with that and told him to put me down. Well, he put me down all right. He let me go. I went flying through the air and crash-landed in the driveway and cracked my head open on the cement. My mom came outside and freaked out. She didn't even take me inside the house. She put me in the car and drove straight to the emergency room, where they stitched me up. When kids picked on me, there wasn't much I could do. I could have run to my dad and told him what was happening, but even then I knew that wasn't a good idea. My dad didn't take shit from anybody, and I didn't want to sick him on my friends or their parents. That wouldn't have been a good situation for anyone. I think my dad knew what was going on, and he probably allowed some of it to happen to toughen me up. He wasn't going to step in and fight my battles for me. I had to learn how to take care of myself. If that meant a few scrapes and bruises along the way, so be it. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Being tough didn't make me weigh more or stand taller. What's a kid who weighs 40 pounds going to do to someone who weighs 120? Bruce Lee could have taught me the monkey paw or the golden sparrow or the donkey death kick to defend myself, but it wouldn't have made much of a difference. My dad wasn't cut out for working at a garbage dump. He was dabbling in drugs and got addicted to heroin. One of his high school buddies had moved to Puerto Vallarta with another friend and had started a pot farm. He reached out to my dad and concocted a scheme to smuggle a flatbed truck full of marijuana across the Mexico-California border. My dad flew to Puerto Vallarta and started driving. He made it all the way up to the U.S. border in Tijuana before he was caught. He was arrested and sent to county jail for a year. The story they told my sister Trudy and me was that our dad was up in Northern California dredging for gold on the Klamath River. It was actually a good thing for my dad. While he was in jail, he got cleaned up and never did.